Hello. So today I would like to talk about the circadian lighting system for care facilities for older people, and in particular how it can support sleep, wakefulness, and well-being. And this presentation has been shared also at the International Conference of Dementia Innovation Readiness in Hong Kong, and it was presented at this conference organized by the JCCPA. Yeah, it's wonderful to present there and also to share this presentation again here online. So as mentioned, I'm Gila Kuipers and I was there with Danny Chung and we represent Lux Balance. Our mission is to bring natural light rhythms indoor, in particular to improve health and well-being for people. Here's a bit more about our team. I'm Innovation Manager at Lux Balance, and previously I also was Innovation Manager at Village Research. And I have always been focused on light for health and well-being, basically the non-visual role of light. Bentley has also been a long time in the lighting industry. His first company was acquired by Philips, and he became a CTO within Philips. And later on, we decided to focus Lux Balance or start Lux Balance and focus Lux Balance on the non-visual role of light. We are based in Hong Kong and the Netherlands. And at the bottom, you can see some of our clients. They range from architectural clients to clients focusing more on plants, in particular tissue culture and plant breeding and plant research. And then recently we had a very interesting project with the Jockey Club Center for Positive Aging, where we focus on light and health and well-being for people with dementia. So I'm going to talk more about that. But now you have heard me talking about light several times. So what is light exactly? Actually, light has three roles. It has a visual role that is particular to help our eye to see and to be seen. It has an emotional role, for example, for mood and ambience. And then there's this third role, it's the biological role, where it helps us to regulate our energy and our energy levels. So this is always present in natural daylight. So yeah, that's really the gold standard. And this has always been there. But there's a big problem because we start to live more and more indoors. It's an indoor lifestyle, and 90% of our time is now spent indoors. And according to some estimates, older individuals are even spending more time indoors than that. So we have this huge disconnect from natural light cycles, and less than 0.5% of lighting systems are currently designed to support circadian rhythms, and that's a big problem. So what are all the problems with yeah, individuals or older individuals? And actually, we can include everybody because we all start to age, and beyond 40 plus, our eye already start to have some kind of yeah, decreased functioning. And we can have these kind of problems like poor adaptation to brightness and also to more sensitivity to glare. That basically means the blinding effect of light, and reduced contrast. So that means we are less able to distinguish objects or yeah, color. And so these are all related to vision deterioration. As we become older, we also are more likely to have more sleep disturbances. It's also a very common problem when we start to develop or start to have dementia, and it can influence our cognitive function, mood disorders, and reduce quality of life. One note to mention here is that older individuals in particular can experience diminished melatonin secretion due to a lack of environmental light. So that basically means there is too little light, and therefore they have less melatonin or less sleep hormones, so to say, and that affects their sleep. So what are problems with yeah, the lack of biological light? Actually, we are currently living in a constant state of twilight. So it means it's not really a bright day and it's not really a dark night because we are indoor and the light levels there are a fraction of what the natural light levels are out there in nature. And that disrupts our yeah, circadian rhythm. And the consequences are that we have a disruption of melatonin and cortisol production, and I will come back to this later. We have sleep-wake disturbances, and sleep quality is affected, and we can have cognitive decline and increased behavioral agitation. For example, if we have a lack of sleep, we become more frustrated or irritated, those kind of things. And it can also have a potential long-term impact on our health and well-being, a pathway to neurodegeneration. And it could be said that when we start to have these kind of problems, we'll sleep less, but also when we start to sleep less, we can have more of these neurodegeneration. So there's a bidirectional effect here. And also when we have this problem of a lack of biological light, we may start to nap more during the daytime, and also we may be more confused, and especially for people with dementia as well, about daytime napping and evening sleep or nighttime sleep. And overall, we can have a reduced quality of life because of this. So what are all the problems with this? Actually, there's a lack of awareness, because when you ask older individuals, people living at home independently, for example, most of them report satisfaction with their light, even if the light was not adequate, not even for for their visual needs, let alone for their biological needs. So that's also a awareness problem. So we often adapt to kind of poor or substandard lighting without knowing it. Of course, it's not only a problem of people, it's in particular a problem from the lighting industry as well, because as mentioned, 0.5% of lights currently are designed to support circadian rhythms. And what's missing is basically that natural spectrum and the natural qualities of light. For example, the incandescent light is not perfect at all, but that contains some infrared. But currently, LEDs contain zero infrared. And actually, if you look at natural daylight, 49% of this light is infrared light. And the current windows are designed to filter that out because it can generate heat. But it can have all kinds of consequences for our body. And also, for example, about circadian rhythm, where we need a certain kind of blue that's not the same as the blue that's used in common LEDs. So we have a reduced biological light exposure, and that influences us very much. So let's talk about the science, and then later I will talk about solution. So light has a biological effect, and it's particular through the melanopsin. That's a third photoreceptor, and the first two being the ones that talk about brightness and color vision. And the third photoreceptor is behind the retina, or in the retina. And basically, light enters the eye and then signals to the brain and to the body, in particular to the pineal gland, which produces the melatonin to basically regulate our sleep-wake cycle. And this is a relatively recent finding. It's around the year 2000 that this finding was discovered, so to say. And so, yeah, it's a relatively recent finding in the lighting industry or in lighting science. So here we see light as a wavelength. Normally we talk about light 380 nanometer to 780 nanometer. And when you ask people what they think about light, well, they think light is bright or white. But actually, when you look at the human eye, it's sensitive to light around 560 nanometer. So that's mainly green and a little bit of red and a little bit of blue. And these three colors together make white light for the human eye. So currently, artificial lighting or general lighting has been optimized only for the eye. But what you can see here is also the sensitivity curve for that melanopsin, and that's around 490 or 480 nanometer, also outlined in these standards. That's much more in the blue area. So that's a different type of light. Here you see the body clock. So you see here, if you have lots of light in the morning, then we will wake up later the next day or earlier the next day. And if you have a lot of evening light at night, then we'll sleep later the same day and also the next day. So what's important here is that we should have the right type of light, in particular around noontime. So one of the speakers at the conference, JCCPA, Bill Yates, he also mentioned about his morning walk when he was always going for a morning walk, which is really wonderful and good, because then you have this exposure to light, and you should really do that in the morning and in the noontime, so to say. If you can't have that, then of course you should bring in more circadian effective light, so to say, and we can talk about that too. So here you see another graph. You see here sunrise, solar, noon, sunset, etc. And you see here two hormones, cortisol, which basically helps us to feel alert, and melatonin, which basically helps us to feel sleepy. So melatonin is something that our body naturally makes. So the role of light in that sense should be to allow the body in the evening to make that naturally and not suppress it. And in the morning, light should suppress it by basically the right type of bright light. So we should have sufficient light, especially in the morning and early, the solar noontime, so to say. So here are metrics for light. What you can see here is maybe the metric that you know, and that's lux, and that's basically the amount of visible light for the human eye, so to say. But that's not appropriate for circadian light. There's another metric called melanopic lux, In Europe, they use MEDI, and in North America, they are using more EML or equivalent melanopic lux, and that's the appropriate metric for circadian impact. There's another note I would like to make is that the color temperature alone, let's say warm white, cool white, and neutral white, is not sufficient to describe circadian light because the same CCT can have different biological potency. So we should really look at melanopic lux, and in particular how much melanopic lux hits the human eye, so to say. So let's talk about solution. This is an implementation at the JCCPA, where this is about the phase 2, where they implemented light to support the people with dementia that are living there, and yeah, basically have better light for them and more natural light for them, and basically to support their sleep and wake cycle. So this light changes every 5 minutes based on this particular location and date and time. And it runs automatically, and there's also schedules behind it. And previously, they had very good architectural or visual light, focusing on the brightness for the human eye. But what was really lacking is the circadian stimulation. So what, the key difference here that we did is to really bring in light that can replace their existing light and also enhance the circadian stimulation. So it's an added requirement to light. There's one other benefit I would like to highlight, and that's about the improvement in the skin tone rendering. Because here we are dealing with people from both the people living there as well as staff and visitors, and it's important to see colors of the human skin in a truthful way. So normally we have the color rendering index that goes from 0 to 100, where 100 is the highest, just like natural daylight, but that excludes the colors like R9 to R15, so to say, for example, red. So it's very important that to have these in a truthful way as well, because that's more related to skin tone colors. So normally for architectural and visual light, R9 of 0 and R9 of 50 is acceptable, for example, in office environment and also in home. But what we really did here is to bring it up to 90 plus, and that also is more pleasant, especially if older residents have already more difficulty in contrast and all those kind of things. So we have a better light, so to say. So here you see some pictures of both bedrooms and in the corridor. Of course, if people can go out for a walk, as I mentioned earlier, that's the best. But meanwhile, when they are staying indoors, we should be able to provide them the best possible light and bring nature indoors, so to say. So here you see other pictures, including some of the spectrum graphs. But you can see here in the morning, we have a lot of blue. And yeah, we have a lot of circadian stimulation, so to say. In the afternoon, it starts to reduce. And in the evening, we have much lesser, so to say. And here you see a lot of infrared as well. So as I mentioned earlier, LEDs typically contain zero infrared. This light actually contains a lot of infrared for all kinds of reasons. So another note on the infrared is actually something that we are researching and developing, and it's very much in progress, is actually to support mitochondria and the role of ATP synthesis through light. So mitochondria is basically known as the powerhouse of the human cell, and also it was named in a report about the hallmarks of aging, a well-known article. So basically here the point is something that we are researching, how infrared and red light can basically help people to be more vital and basically slow down the aging process. So the current light contains already a lot of infrared and red light, but this is something very much ongoing as well. So now a summary slide about what we can claim and what we cannot claim. Light can be part of the solution and also of the problem. There is not a fixed lighting solution that always stays the same and is good for all situations, because it really depends on the activity or what you want to achieve, and then also on the installation and how the process should run. So light should support the biology, the body's biological process and also the emotional experience. It's not necessarily a medical claim, especially if you have a disease, if there's really a disease, then of course it should be treated in a different way. But this is really to help the body, but to naturally, sleep better, so to say. So light can be part of the overall well-being and healing environment, and it should be seen in this context as a holistic and comprehensive approach. And this can be a non-pharmaceutical approach to support the sleep and wakefulness, so to say. So it's not necessarily a treatment to cure a disease. And of course, if there are different goals that you have, for example, to support the sleep or wakefulness or like mitochondria, then we should make light specific for that at the right time, because that's also very important. It's not just to give lots of blue light throughout the whole day, because no, it's actually more about the morning and the brightness of the moon, etc. So that's it. Here are our contact details, as well as you can download the PDF by scanning this QR code. And here are some references as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.